welcome to the first virtual Sew Fun Club for 2023. And I want to welcome you all here today. We've got a very special guest that we have for our trunk show. And it's the first time that we have her visiting us here in Southern California for all 5 of our Moores locations. So we'll have a video with her shortly. But before I get into Flying Parrot Quilts, let's first talk about our usual business here on Virtual Sew Fun Club. So we have giveaways. We have 2 special giveaways that we have, and each of these are a Hope Yoder video. There's over 30 different images that we have for machine embroidery on these giveaways, and you could be lucky to be one of the 2 people that will be getting this special prize. In order to do that, all you need to do is to like, comment, or share on our feed here today. And that way you'll be in the running for our giveaways for this Hope Yoder machine embroidery designs. I can't wait to see who wins. And it's always so exciting to get your name in there and see potentially if you're going to get the prize for this month. So I don't want to keep you waiting any longer for our special trunk show featuring Sylvia Schaefer from Flying Parrot Quilts. So with further ado, let's talk to Sylvia. Welcome, Sylvia.
Thanks so much for having me. Hi.
Hello, all the way down in Georgia. So we're so glad that you joined us here for our virtual Sew Fun Club here in Southern California for all of our locations, as well as all of our virtual customers. Now, first off, I always like to start with a question to kind of give you a brief synopsis of how you started on your quilting. So what got you into the quilting world, Sylvia?
So I've always been pretty crafty. I have dabbled in all sorts of arts and crafts. I was big into rubber stamping and paper crafts. And then I moved down to Georgia to go to graduate school, actually graduate school in science. But while I was there, a bunch of girls that were in my program invited me to come to the craft nights. And that's where I first got exposed to quilting. I had always sewn garments and things like that, but never was really that into it. You know, just like the Halloween costume kind of sewer. But when I saw this quilting and the way they were cutting up pieces and putting them back together, I was just fascinated. And I thought, wow, I really want to try that. So I went out and bought some fabric and found a pattern that I liked. And I just kind of got hooked, and the rest is history.
Yeah, I think that's the way it goes for most of us. But with you, you have a special knack where you're able to create these amazing patterns. And we have 15 very special new to our Moores customers that Sylvia's going to share with us tonight. So let's dive right in to what you have to show for us.
All right. Well, so my patterns kind of have a couple of different types of sewing and patterns that I do. And one of them is doing little paper piece mini quilts. So I'll start out by showing you some of those. So these are generally for folks that do have a little bit of experience with paper piecing. And the first one I'm going to show you is a perennial favorite, which is my hummingbird pattern. This quilt is called Tiny Jewel, and it's a little mini quilt of a hummingbird in flight that is really fun to put together. The nice thing about this pattern, as well as a couple of the others that I'm going to show you, is that it actually comes with 3 sizes. So in your paper pattern, you'll find the large version, which is an 18 by 18 inch hummingbird pattern. But then you also get a download code. You can go to my website and download 2 additional smaller sizes of this hummingbird, the templates for it, so that if you want to, say, make a quilt with a lot of different sizes of hummingbirds, you do have some options there.
Well, I love that. That's one of the things that drew me initially, because I have a love of hummingbirds, and it's just really cute. I love that little guy.
Yeah, so in the same vein, I have also got a dragonfly, and this one is called Gossamer Wings. It's super great for using up scraps, and if you love rainbows like I do, You can get all rainbowy, or you could try, using some of your favorite prints, or make it all one color. And this one also finishes at 18 by 18, and it also comes with 2 additional sizes that you can download. So, again, if you even combine this maybe with a hummingbird and make a fun garden kind of quilt. So this is a real favorite of mine, just because you can get so colorful with it. Now, my background is in oceanography. That's what I studied in graduate school, is marine science and oceanography. So naturally, I had to do something ocean themed as well. So here's my little seahorses. Now, these, again, finish at 18 by 18, and they have 2 little seahorses facing each other with a little heart in the tail. So you can customize these however you like. You could just use the background for the heart as well if you didn't want to emphasize that. But this is, would be a great wedding gift or something like that, a little mini. For this one, I actually used my husband's and my favorite colors for these seahorses. So that's a really easy way to really personalize the seahorses. Now, I recognize that, of course, not everyone has a partner, and that's okay. So with this one, instead of giving you 2 additional sizes that you can download a single seahorse in 2 sizes. So just a single seahorse and then some baby seahorses. So you could make your whole family of seahorses, with mom and dad and kids, however many kids you might like to make, all as seahorses.
That is so sweet. I love that idea.
So the last critter mini that I have to show you now, those of you that are arachnophobes and really hate spiders might want to avert your eyes for just a minute, because this is my Halloween mini, and here's a spider. I designed this for Halloween quilt that I made, actually, and so I have this spider here, which would be just a really fun thing to do for your seasonal decor. This one finishes a little smaller. This one's a 16 by 16 inch block, but you do also get 2 smaller sizes with this one as well.
So why don't we go ahead and talk about our price points here? So as you know, for our virtual Sew Fun Club, we always get you a special price that we negotiate with our vendors. And this month is no exception. And for all of our patterns that we have here tonight, they all retail for $12. But for all of our Sew Fun Club virtual and in-store customers, the price is only going to be $9.59. So you're going to have significant savings. And once again, I have looked on the internet and I have found the lowest price, and we have matched it. So you can be safe and secure that when you purchase with us, you will get the lowest price out there. So once again, all of our patterns here tonight retail for $12, but you will not pay that here tonight. It will only be $9.59. So let's get back to Sylvia now and see what she has next up to show us.
For those of you that are into paper piecing, and then after that, we'll show you some more traditionally pieced patterns. But with the paper piece patterns, now this one is actually the very first pattern I published. This is called the Artichoke. And this is a little quilt block that is put together with paper piecing. It looks really complicated, but it's not as hard as you think, because I've got a clever way of putting it together. I really love this one because it's just so geometric. You could do a lot of different things with those colors. Here I've got them darker on the outside and lighter on the inside, but you could make spirals. You could do all sorts of fun things with the colors of this one. And I've seen quilters do all sorts of really cool variations with the colors. Now, this block is 20 by 20. And the pattern actually includes 2 variations on how to set this block. So for this one, I've just got what I call the artichoke that is just on the background there. But what I also have for you is a circular setting. So that looks like this. And it's got that artichoke inset in a circle. And so both of those ways of setting the pattern, the templates for both of them are included in the pattern. So you can go whichever way you like. You can go really fancy with this circular pattern, or you can keep it more simple with a plain one. Now, we all love sewing so much. We might even say we're sociopaths, SEWCIOPATH. And a sociopath, SEW, is someone that has no guilt about going into quilt stores and buying more fabric and quilting supplies. And I have a fun wall hanging that you can put on your quilt room wall to announce your love of fabric.
Oh, that is so cute, Sylvia.
Now, this one definitely is for the more advanced quilters among you and the more advanced paper piecers among you. I will readily admit that some of these pieces are pretty tiny. I originally just made this for myself, and then people started asking me for a pattern for it. So, of course, I had to oblige. Now, this one also gives you a couple of different options in the pattern. You can either do what I've done and make this fun wall hanging that has the little spools of quilts on it, or you can just put all the words in a row. And so then that would be a fun thing to maybe incorporate into a row quilt or some other quilt that you might have planned that celebrates your love of sewing.
So let me go over real quick. Let me step back. We'll give you a little break there. And I want to talk about each of the ones that we've already seen here. So let's talk about each of the quilt patterns that we've already seen that Sylvia has shown us. So the first one was that adorable paper pieced hummingbird that I love so well. I think it's a ruby throated, but depending upon your fabric choices, it can be whatever type of hummingbird you want, depending upon what colors you pick. The second one that we had was gossamer wings. And those were those adorable dragonflies. Once again, paper pieced. And I don't want, paper piecing, if you have not done paper piecing before, I love paper piecing. And the reason that I love paper piecing is that you get precise points on all of your corners because of the way that you do the paper piecing, which will be in all of the instructions that we have. But it's one of those things, one of these small little items that we have here tonight. It would be a perfect way to start to get your feet wet and get paper piecing away. So the third one that we had was the ocean ponies, those seahorses. And once again, wouldn't that be cute to have the whole family of seahorses for your particular family? And then we went up to Spooky Spider. And I love that spider. Once again, you can make them any color out there, depending upon your fabric choices. And then we went to the artichoke. And the artichoke, once again, she had in two different design elements. We had straight on, and then she also had this circular display. And then the last one that we had was that wonderful I'm a sociopath. And I know I am, and I know there's a lot of us out there that are. So let's get back to Sylvia and see what she has next for us.
All right, so one more paper piece pattern for you is my paper piece pattern called Paper Cranes, which is this quilt right behind me. Now, this one is inspired by origami. One of the things that one of the many crafts that I've dabbled in is origami. And so I wanted to make a quilt that celebrates origami and has these beautiful paper cranes. And so again, these cranes are paper pieced, and there are two directions of cranes. There are several different sizes of finished quilt in this quilt pattern. So this would be a great gift for anyone that you want to wish good luck to, because cranes are meant to symbolize good luck, and folding cranes is meant to symbolize good luck as well.
So Sylvia, let me butt in real quick. Sorry.
Yeah.
So since we can't see the full size of that one, what size is that pattern generally, the full size of the quilt?
So this one behind me is it's 30 by 40 about, but it also comes with sizes up to queen size. You'll just be making a lot more of the cranes for the larger sizes.
Thank you for that. Okay.
So also behind me is on this side here, this is Dogwood Dreams. And this is actually an applique pattern. This is a little bit of a modern take on an applique quilt. So there are two different sizes of dogwood flowers in this pattern. Now, the pattern calls for raw edge fusible applique, but certainly if you are the kind of person that prefers hand turn applique or machine applique or any of those different techniques, you could certainly adapt it for that as well. And it's just a really kind of a fun modern applique pattern. Now, I have another applique pattern. I don't do quite as much applique as I do regular piecing, but I do also have another applique pattern, which is called Mountain Rainbows. And again, this is a really modern take on applique. It's actually a modern take on the Dresden plate block, which I've always loved. But instead of setting it in circles, I have set it in a zigzag pattern. And then the rest of the background is just a zigzag as well. So you mostly just do large half square triangles for these chevrons, but then you have this one row of Dresden plate blocks that you can make really colorful. Again, I've made it a rainbow color here, but that makes the quilt grow together pretty quickly. Now, just for fun, I want to show you a different colorway of this pattern because sometimes it can be hard to visualize a rainbowy quilt in a different colorway, but I actually made it in a purple and green colorway as well. So this was kind of inspired by the colors of the mountains that you see as, you're looking into the distance and the mountains just get hazier and kind of purple. And then I used green, to represent the trees on the mountains. But this is just another way of coloring this pattern. So it's versatile and you can go with other colorways than what's shown on the cover.
I love the two options. I'm often one of those quilters where the patterns, set in lights and I deliberately go dark. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's nice to have options.
Yeah. Now, I mentioned that my background is in science. And so we do have a couple of science-themed quilt patterns that are included here. And I want to show you the first one, which is my chemistry-inspired quilt, which is called Potions. Now, it's called Potions because it could just as well be potions in a magic lab. But what you get with this one is 3 different blocks of flasks. So we have what's called our Erlenmeyer flask, and we have our test tubes here. And then there are also some beakers as well. So that green one there is a beaker. And I've arranged them all on shelves so you can make your own laboratory, mad scientist laboratory. And it's just a really fun way also to use up scraps because each of these flasks has, it's filled with liquid. And so it's really fun to go through your scraps and select different fun fills for all of these flasks.
Yeah, for all those special potions. Yes.
That's right. And potions, it's kind of Halloween-y. So this quilt works really well as a Halloween-y version too. So here's a little pillow just made with those different blocks. And I've filled it up with Halloween fabrics and used a spider web for the background and used Halloween colors. So this pattern is actually also really versatile.
Very cute. I love that pillow.
The other science-themed quilt pattern that I want to show you, and it's sort of science-themed, sort of healthcare themed, right? We all know nurses and doctors, especially with this pandemic coming to an end. We still really appreciate all that the nurses and doctors have done for us. And so if you have a special nurse or special doctor in your life that you want to say thank you to, this stethoscope quilt might be a really fun one for you to make for them. So these stethoscope blocks are about 9 by 16, and they're arranged with, you know, one facing upwards and one facing downwards. And the quilt pattern, again, it comes with a bunch of different sizes, so you can do, you know, make just a few blocks or a whole bunch of blocks, you know, however big you want to go with that.
And I love that you use different colors. So once again, lots of your fabric choices are bright and cheery and bold, and that just really screams for those stethoscopes. Very nice.
The other quilt patterns that I have are a little bit more traditional, if you will. I still like to go with the bright and modern colors. But for example, back here behind me here, this is pinwheel rings. Now I can kind of take this off here a little bit to show you a little more of it. This is a really fun pattern as well. So this is all traditionally pieced, and you'll make these little pinwheels here in the center, and then you'll do just a little bit of curved piecing to set them into these circular blocks. And then the cornerstones of the blocks form additional pinwheels over here. And this again is a really fun way to choose lots of you know, scraps or other fun bright fabrics. You'll just need 2 colors of background fabric for this true background here, and then for the rings.
Very nice. Well, let me go ahead and talk about each of the patterns that we've shown again, give you a little break, and then we'll come right back to you, Sylvia. So let me go back to, let's see, the second set. We started off with paper cranes. So once again, paper cranes, and you can do as many or as little. I believe there's 3 different sizes that you get included in that. And then we went to Dogwood Dreams, which is the nice floral quilt in back of her. And then we jumped down to Mountain Rainbows. And I love Mountain Rainbows because she showed it with the bright, cheery rainbow colors, and then also in purple and greens. And then we went down to Potions, and we started in with our science-themed quilts. So Potions, we also had the Halloween little pillow. So lots of versatility with that pattern. After Potions, we had stethoscopes. So once again, if you have a favorite doctor, a favorite nurse, a favorite healthcare worker, or even if your kid's going to school to become a doctor, those stethoscopes are going to make a great quilt. You can use just a few to make a wall hanging all the way up to a quilt. And then we had talked about, oh my goodness, what was the last one?
Pinwheel rings.
Thank you. It was pinwheel rings. I forgot to mark it on my sheet. So pinwheel rings, once again, goes into her traditional piecing. And now we're going to go right back to Sylvia, and she's going to talk about more of her quilts and her traditional piecing.
All right, so I have 3 more quilts that are a little bit more traditional, but still with kind of a modern bent for you here today. We have a quilt that I call Fiery Sunset. And this one is really all strip pieced with some half square triangles, a bunch of half square triangles thrown in for good measure. But this is just a really fun and bright and bold quilt. It would work well in lots and lots of different colorways. But it's really pretty straightforward. It's just strip piecing. You'll put them together into 2 different blocks. And then when you put them together, it makes this really cool, bold pattern. All right, so I also have a quilt called Mod Arrows. And that's what this one is. I'll show this to you here. So this one is really fun because this uses 3 different shades of each color to make these very simple chevron arrows. It's just a flying geese put together in kind of a clever way to make these chevrons. And then you'll have several different sets of these colors in 3 different shades to make different colors of blocks that are rotated to make this really neat kind of pattern.
How
So
big
this
is
is
that quilt that you have there?
so this one's about 60 by 60, but again, there are several different sizes of quilts in provided for you in the pattern. So
Very
you
good.
can choose. I think it's actually 5 or 6 different sizes. I can't remember off the top of my head, but lots of options for you there. And then the final quilt to show you is a quilt called Moroccan Tiles. Now, this uses some curved piecing. So I hope that all of you are gung-ho to try curved piecing. Is really not as hard as some people make it out to be. And this quilt just uses one block. So it just uses really a kind of a drunkard's path block to put these shapes together, these kind of Moroccan tile inspired shapes. The nice thing about this quilt pattern is that these centerpieces are actually pretty large. So if you have like a really beautiful large scale print that you've been saving and you don't quite know what to do with it because all your patterns cut it up into these really tiny pieces, this might be the perfect pattern for that because you get some of these large pieces, but you still have these fun shapes that they're set into. Now, a couple of things about this, the way it's put together, the pattern is going to kind of guide you through all of that and help you keep track of your fabrics because that is important with this pattern. And the other thing that the pattern also includes is, I don't know if you noticed the edging on this quilt, but you might see that I don't have a traditional binding on this quilt. I've got what's called a facing on the quilt. Which is a technique that I think is fantastic for a lot of the more modern quilts. But it gives you this really great seamless finish where there's no border at all on the edge of the quilt. And the instructions for that are included in the pattern so that you can replicate this same edge finish.
Oh, I love that. And I just noticed that when you mentioned it. I have a friend of mine who just made this quilt, and she said it was she thought it was going to be very challenging, but in the end, it was very easy and it went together very well. So, yeah, pretty impressive. Okay, so that's it. Let me talk once again about the last three that we have. So, we had fiery sunsets, all those bright, bold colors. And then we had Maud arrows. And the Maud arrows, she had multiple colors and three different shades of the same color all throughout the quilt. And the last one we had was that Moroccan tiles. Now, Moroccan tiles, they're very popular right now, and I've seen them in lots of different quilts. But this one, once again, we have that special finishing on the sides. And once again, it's good for those large print fabrics that we all have. So with that said, that kind of concludes all of the 15 patterns that we have today from Flying Parrot Quilts. And I'm going to ask Sylvia one more question. So why Flying Parrot Quilts for the name of your company?
That's a great question. So Flying Parrot Quilts is a little bit of a play on the flying geese block, which we all love, and the fact that I've always had parrots as pets. So I've never had a dog. I've never had a cat. I've always had birds. So right now I have 2 little cockatiels, and they're just a delight. And so this is just a little punny little play on those 2 parts of my life.
Well, very good. Well, that's exciting. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. And thank you for sharing your talents and your quilting abilities with us tonight for our virtual Sew Fun Club and all of our customers here in Southern California. I want to thank you for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you in the future. Thank you so much,
Thank you
Sylvia.
so much for having me.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
So at this time, let's do our show and tell. Always my favorite part of Sew Fun Club. So as usual, I have something to start you off with. And I created a quilt using one of my favorite designers, a pattern by Elizabeth Hartman. And it's koalas, something that are dear and close to my heart. I've held a little baby koala, and so that's why I picked this pattern. So let me show you this pattern. And once again, this is called Koalas by Elizabeth Hartman. And it's a modern quilt. You will see that it has a modern flair and the animals are pieced together. using traditional piecing. It's not applique at all. And then for the stitching to finish off this quilt, I simply did some straight line quilting in a modern flair where I made it look linear, but I had blocks to finish it off. It was really fun to create, and it's one of these quilts that I'll have for the rest of my life, where I have a quilt now to memorize the koalas that I fell in love with years ago in Australia. So now it's time for you to share what you're working on. What projects have you made? It can be machine embroidery, it could be knitting, any sort of needlework that you have. We want to see it. So go ahead and share with us now, and you can add it to our Facebook page and also our YouTube site. And once again, when you do that, you will be in the running for these two amazing prizes that we have here today. So that's about it for our special virtual Sew Fun Club featuring Flying Parrot Quilts. And I want to thank Sylvia Schaefer for taking time out and spending it with here in Southern California with all of our Moores customers. Don't forget that you can stop by any of our locations, either in Mission Viejo, Huntington Beach, Brea, Corona, or Temecula. And you can visit us there, and we have lots of friendly, helpful employees to help you with all of your sewing needs. So I want to thank you for taking time out of your busy days and hanging out with us here on Virtual Sew Fun Club. I look forward to seeing you next month, and until then, happy stitching, everyone.